Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I am unveiling the new version, updated version of my DD4 infographic, the DD4 theory infographic. And I'm going to talk about the new characters that came to the game over this last patch and how they fit in, whether or not they're worth bringing to DD4. One thing that I do before I release any infographic is I try to test the characters in the game. So I don't release T4 infographics until I've built the team up and tested out the team and tested out the T4s. And similarly with DD4, I've really been testing these characters and talking to other players who've tested the characters to make sure that I'm giving you good advice here. So I want to talk to you very briefly about my approach here, and then we'll get right to how the new characters slot in. So one thing I just want to make clear here is I still believe that my initial impression, so I made this right after and made a Reddit post and then made this right after I finished DD4. I think it's over 3 months ago now. But I still believe that the best approach to DD4 is to bring characters that are gonna help you outside of DD4. Don't gear up Shield Trooper. Don't gear up these characters that you're just gonna sit on the bench. Orange gear is still rare enough that I think you're better off trying to gear up characters who are going to make an impact for you elsewhere, especially now that we're all really focused on the Doom raid, trying to get those raid milestones now that Silver Surfer is confirmed to be in there. So let's just walk right through these. So, global is the easiest section, and I did not make any changes to global. And the only new global character that came this patch is Polaris. She's a very good character. If you've seen my videos on this channel, you've seen that she is awesome and, definitely enables X Factor to do some really good stuff against Black Order and so on. But I will just say that, she's 90 uniques, and I think that mutant uniques are valuable enough right now that you have other choices. Now, I have considered, some of you have asked me, why isn't Beast on here? And, my thought process is I really like Beast. I think he's a very important character on a very important team. He's one of the three characters that really matter on the Axemen team. But I just don't think he provides enough in the nodes here. And frankly, I think there are other good mutant options that I'd rather you spend your uniques on. Now, Emma Frost and Sinister have fallen off. I think the Marauders team is really getting to a point in Alliance War where you're not going to be relying on them nearly as much. They're countered by so many teams because Shadowland and X Factor counter them so handily. But nonetheless, I do think those characters still have value in other game modes, and they're just such high performers within the nodes that I am fine with people, still using their uniques there. I still have Strife and X23 here. I will say that I did consider taking Strife off because of the value of Marauders being down. He's an okay pair with Sinister. If you have a 7 red star Strife, he's fine. But I definitely think you should consider using mutant gear elsewhere. Whether it's for bringing both Jubilee and Phoenix to Legendary or bringing some of the X Factor. I think that may be a better choice in terms of the mutant gear. But really, what I have here is I call it reasonable choices. I don't pretend to know what your roster's like. I don't pretend to know your star levels and what characters you rely on. So if you're relying on, let's say, Marauders a lot in other game modes, then bring up your Marauders. I also have considered removing, particularly Sabretooth here as a cheaper option. Now that there are more hybrids in War Defense, I am starting to see a lot of people, take Sabretooth off their team, and I have him off my team on War Defense. Nonetheless, there's enough people, even in high-level war, that are running Sabretooth on their War Defense that I think he's worth keeping on here because he's only 18 uniques. If someone's really in a hurry, that's the way to do it. I will just say to you that the global nodes are the easiest nodes, so wouldn't focus entirely on these top performers here. I would bring up the characters that you really want to have geared while having some reason here. In other words, don't bring up all tanks or all stealthy characters or whatever. In other words, I wouldn't, if you bring up a team that's like Zemo, X23, and the two cheaper options, it's going to take you a long time. So have some reasonable mix here. Have some tank to allow people to get going. But if you're really concerned about speed, these three top performers are great. When I first made this infographic, I had Ghost here in good but expensive, in part because a lot of people wanted to bring Ghost plus Minerva, and it created a tech crunch. I think nowadays there are fewer tech characters people are enthusiastic about. So, and the uniques are, more prevalent. So I'm considering moving Ghost out of this category into the reasonable meta choices category, and then just keeping Red Guardian here in good but expensive. But I delayed that for a month because I still hear from enough people who are having this crunch with Ghost and Minerva and trying to choose between those two characters. All right, Cosmic is lot tougher, a lot tougher than Global. It's still fine. You're still going to get through it. But the third node in particular, which is the ninth node in DD4, is a challenge. And so, really, if you want to get through this and not trudge through, in other words, you could take the view. My view is, hey, I'm willing to take 2, 3, 4 extra weeks, even if it took that, right? Or especially if you're, let's say, using your heals and cores for getting the 50, you doing the 50s to get a second attack per day. It might be another week or two. You're fine bringing some of these other characters here to the left. But if you really want to blow through, just bring some of the top performers. And Silver Surfer is a top performer, and I have tested him extensively in DD4. I link some of the videos. I link the videos below where I do show you guys how he performs. And I will just say I have tested him now at 5 reds and with the Dad Bros, and he's absolutely insane. So if you look here, for example, in my last run of Dark Dimension 4, this is the quote hard node that takes a lot of times people 20, 30 attacks to get through. It certainly took me, I think, on the first time through 30 attacks, although I had very low Stark Tech at the time and not the ideal team. I would blow through this with 3 attacks, and I wasn't even putting a lot of effort into it. I was streaming and chatting with people while I did this and was just kind of, clicking and pressing buttons. I think if I put more effort, I probably could have done it into attacks. Now, obviously, I have a huge Dad Bros team, and that's doing a lot of the work. I've got, 4 high performers, and this is a 5-person team. But I was impressed enough with what Silver Surfer was doing at 5 red stars to say that, look, he is an amazing character, and comparing apples to apples here, he's a high performer. In other words, yes, I understand we all have Silver Surfer now at 3 stars or 2 stars or 0 stars for some of you, but let's just say, a lot of people have him at 3 stars or 4 stars, and I get you're trying to compare a 3-star Surfer to a 7-star Minerva or a 7-star Hela. I get that. But what I'm basically trying to say here is the fact that a 3 or 4 or 5-star Surfer is hanging with some of the top performers or even in that league tells you that as a realistic matter, he's a top performer. Then the question is just how many stars and red stars do you have on him? I might try to have my infographics look forward a little bit because these things are going to change over time. For all I know, there'll be new offers or the raid milestones will give us a lot of shards and we'll, a lot of people have Silver Surfer, and I just consider him in that top tier. The one character I haven't brought up is Hela, and Hela is really good, and that is because of this Hela Gray combo Hela Minerva combo that people use. I mean, if you want to one-shot these nodes, bring in Hela and Minerva, and then let Hela die, and then res Hela, so you have 2 Gregs. Sometimes people, so you have double Greg. Sometimes people do triple Greg, and that really can get you through these nodes easily. Mordo and Thor, remember, are only good when you have Hela in. I have that in the notes here. I keep having people ask me, well, I brought in Thor, and he just sits there and doesn't do anything. And it's like, yeah, he has like 90-something speed and doesn't really do anything without Hela. So you definitely want to take note of that. I will say that I do think the Black Order choices are I'm less enthusiastic about them than I was, over 3 months ago. When I think I was in December when I was making these decisions about who to bring in to DD4. But I still think, look, they're a very good team. They're a top war offense team. And while they're falling off an arena, for a lot of folks, that's going to be still your arena team. So I think they're totally fine investment to bring in. These are good characters, and really who you bring in depends on who you're using. don't be bringing up the Asgardian characters or Supernatural if you're not using them in war. Bring up characters that you're using elsewhere. But in terms of future value, Surfer and the Dad Bros are going to have the most future value here, with Hela coming right behind. All right, let's talk about City. We have another addition here, Multiple Man. I do link below to the video that I did showcasing Multiple Man in DD4. I didn't put a post here the videos that I did of the first nodes, but I will just say to you that I did test Multiple Man in all 3 of the City nodes, and he did very well in the first 2. So let me show you here. He blew through this first node and blew through the second node. He was really doing an amazing job in making these nodes easier. But I got to tell you, I was one-shotting these nodes without Multiple Man when I was using other 4th characters. So I used this team of 3 because I felt like this was what most players seem like they're bringing in that are currently working their way through DD4 with these 3 symbiotes, Symbiote Spider-Man, Scream, and Anti-Venom. And I've done this with White Tiger, with Night Nurse, with a Merc Lieutenant, with Punisher, just a test. And so I have a very good sense of how these characters compare against each other. And Multiple Man was better than them on these nodes because the enemies are easier on this node. But when I got to this last node, I really was not doing that great. Like, Multiple Man really was not carrying his weight. I tried him on a team of 5. He wasn't that much better in the team of 5. I tried to compare him, to some other characters. I just feel like, ultimately in this last node, the enemies are so strong that unless you're a symbiote character, you're not going to do that well. And so I will just say, Multiple Man is here. I put him in the good but expensive category. And it's just because, these are characters that are all 72, that are all using uniques that you may need elsewhere. Like, for example, Mystic, you just got out of needing all these Mystic uniques here potentially, and then you're going to need to bring Maw up in Legendary. So, spending 72 uniques on a Ghost Rider may be a lot. Similarly with Multiple Man, look, there's all these great mutant choices nowadays, so, it's not clear to me, whether or not you want to bring up Multiple Man here, but I think he's a very good choice. Certainly has value outside of DD4, a lot of value. X Factor's a great team, but I don't think he's a high performer, and really, I don't think any of these non-symbiotes are high performers. You could put Venom here. I just feel like, he's so expensive, and I don't think he quite is at the level of like Symbiote Spider-Man or Scream, but he's very, very good. If there's any other potential high performer, it would be another symbiote like Venom. So I think in City, if you want to get through this in any kind of reasonable amount of time, you're going to bring 3 symbiotes. If you try to do 2 symbiotes, it's going to be rough. 4 symbiotes will blow through it, but of course that's a lot of bio gear and alien spores and so forth. All right, Legendary. I get a lot of questions about Legendary, and my views on Legendary really haven't changed. I do think that Doc Ock is the best character. I think that Ebony Maw and Phoenix are really awesome. Can you do this without Phoenix? A lot of people are asking me that question. The answer is yes, you can. She's not necessary. These nodes aren't that hard because the characters are all quite good. Can you bring in Jubilee? Yes, and I've really gotten mixed reviews on Jubilee. She's a hero controller, so when you die, that can help the enemy Maw, and the enemy Maws can ability block her. But on the other hand, her stun and so forth can be very useful. She is a good character. She's obviously good elsewhere. Do you need her at G15? Not really. I have a lot of G15 characters, but I've kept mine at G14, level 80, because she's not a huge damager. Her goal is just, to me, to stay alive and land her debuffs. But she's great at G15 and certainly a viable choice. I get people asking about Invisible Woman. Right now she is useful in Arena. How long that'll last, I'm not so sure. Her and Black Bolt are both characters that have some Arena use right now because the meta's revolved around Surfer and Doom. I don't know how long that meta's going to last. I have the feeling new characters are on the way that are really going to change the meta. Maybe not this upcoming patch, but the patch after that. Shuri has a ton of value, by the way, in raids. Useful in the tech nodes of the Doom raid. Useful in all 3 of the Greek raids. So definitely a valuable character as well. to me, really bring up the characters that are going to get the most use for you elsewhere, and you're going to be fine here. The best one, the highest performer, is Doc Ock. All right, guys, I linked this infographic below. I linked those videos below. Please give me your comments below if you think I'm missing something or if you want me to consider other options. I really do care about your feedback on this infographic. And please head to our Discord. We have lots of great discussions about DD4 there and who to bring up and so forth. And then my Twitch stream is also linked below. I do stream on weeknights.